What's going on, everybody? This is Nick Bolliger back with NMB Sports here. Today I got Brandon and Garrett, and we're going to talk a little bit of March Madness and college basketball prospects. So, Brandon, you want to jump us into it?
I would love to get into this. So, we're going to talk a little bit about our first topic that I do want to talk about is players that I think are going to impact their teams the most in March. A couple kids I want to look at. Josh Jackson for Kansas. Okay?
Yes.
He moved them to the number one spot, elevated Kansas to the number one spot after Gonzaga lost. I do want to talk about how his level of play right now is something that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah,
He's
Mason.
he's very strong, and he can also finesse to score. I would watch out for Josh Jackson for Kansas in the tournament. Another guy I want to talk about that you introduced me to, this guy named Miles Bridges, probably my favorite college basketball player right now. When I first saw this kid play, I was only watching highlights, and when you see his high school mixtape, all you saw was him dunking on people, and he would stare him down. The thing I do like what he did this year in his offseason was that not only is he athletic enough to dunk, but he also has expanded his range. I think he's going to be very, very key to Michigan State's run this year in the tournament. So I'd watch out for Josh Jackson and Miles Bridges, small forwards for both Kansas and Michigan State. Garrett, what do you got?
Well, my first player, of course, I'm sure everybody thought of this at some point, Lonzo Ball.
Everyone's got to
for
talk
UCLA.
about Lonzo. Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's probably going to be first or second pick in the draft. And UCLA, they have some other good players around that team, but he's clearly the best player.
Absolutely.
Just he can shoot from as soon as he gets past half court.
Oh, yeah.
He can shoot, and
He can
he's
shoot before
also
half
very
court, too.
and he's also very athletic, and he fills the stat sheet up. So obviously, you got to take him. They
Right.
should make a deep run. They're one of the better teams.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is kind of interesting. Grayson Allen.
Grayson
I
Allen.
know people look at him, they think he's a dirty player, which I like, but
Yeah,
I think he's a dirty player. But
He's a great player.
He's the thing
He's a great
that
player.
keeps Duke running in terms of, like, down the stretch. He's going to be the guy that comes through for them, really.
Right.
right. The only thing, like you said, he didn't start the other night, so that's just kind of one thing that I'm worried about. I don't know if Coach K is one of the best coaches in college.
Obviously knows what
sports,
he's
so-
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, the emergence of Frank Jackson, that point guard, they
Right.
got, he was a top 10 recruit coming out of high school. He's really come along. So is Luke Kennard, the shooting guard. So we're gonna jump into my picks for players you really got to watch. And my first one, I mean, he's done it all 4 years at Villanova. He's been a great player. Josh Hart, obviously it took him a while to develop, much like Buddy Hield, into the player he is. He shoots, I think I saw 50%,
Yeah, he shot 50 overall.
almost 19 points a game, a couple rebounds, a couple assists. He's a very good all-around shooting guard. As I said, much like Buddy Hield, who had a lot of success last year in his senior year in the tournament and in March and so on. So, I think he could replicate kind of that aspect of things. So Josh Hart is my first player to watch, and much like Garrett, I'm interested in this Duke team this year. There's been a lot of things that haven't really gone as expected. Harry Giles, Marcus Bolden, Grayson Allen's just been hit or miss.
Right.
I think the guy they need to be consistent is this guy, Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
So, I call him Jay Smooth because he's pure fun to watch. I mean, he's just smooth.
Smooth as
What
silk,
else?
bro.
What else can you say?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I think he could be really clutch down the end of the season. We saw Brandon Ingram a couple years ago do it, and I think of course they have a difference in play style, but they're, I believe, on the same level in college aspects. So I really think Jason Tatum can lead them and be that freshman phenom they thought he was going to be and lead them down the stretch into success in March.
Right.
Now, we had a couple honorable mentions as well because, there's just so many good players in college this year. First off, we're going to start with Justin Jackson.
Justin Jackson. Okay. These are players that I do want. They could have fit in anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
All going to have impacts on their team. But yeah, so just want to talk about the Kentucky guards. Do want to talk about these guys.
That duo.
Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox. These guys know how to score. I'm just going to say that point blank. Kentucky has always been a team that can make it run deep, and I feel like the Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox can both help them with that.
They both can do other things as well. Like De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk as well. They're both very good rebounding guards.
Right.
I believe De'Aaron Fox has a 2 triple doubles this year, or was that
Yeah,
Malik
he is.
Monk?
Yep.
Yeah.
So De'Aaron Fox has 2 triple doubles this year, which is
You don't see those very much in
in
college.
college.
you
No. Yeah, and the last one we wanted to talk about was Frank Mason. You know, he along with Josh Jackson. Excuse
Yep.
me, I'm drawing a blank there. Along with Josh Jackson in Kansas, you know, leading that number 1 seeded team into March, he's going to play a big role down the stretch of the season as well for them to have success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
So going into our next segment, okay, we're going to move on. This is where all of us have been talking about this for months, trying to figure out where these teams are going to line up. So we all took one team. We took a team that we think is going to be on the rise in the upcoming years. Obviously, mine's going to be the T-Wolves. Garrett, you chose the Lakers.
and
Nick, you
obviously I chose the Bucks.
chose the Bucks. So we have 2 players that we think can put them finally over that playoff slump. They can finally put them into position to not just win a championship, but be a contender.
And be like a potential dynasty.
Exactly.
You know, a guy that can just really change the focus of an organization. So, where are we going to start?
All right, so I'm going to start. I'm going to talk about the T-Wolves. Obviously, everyone knows, I hope you know now, that my love for Miles Bridges. I want this guy in Minnesota. He can score. He can dunk. He's young. He's athletic. I love everything about him. He's growing out his hair. He looks like a goon right now, and I love it. So I want Miles Bridges down in Minnesota. Another guy I want to talk about, I do think Minnesota has to look at the small forward position. I do think we have to analyze it because I think Andrew Wiggins plays better when he's at the 2 because when Zach LaVine hasn't played, Karl Towns and Andrew Wiggins have combined for an average of 60.1 points a game, shooting over 50%.
And they're young.
And Andrew Wiggins is 23 and Karl Towns is 22. So I do want to talk about that, averaging over 60 points and shooting over 50% when Zach LaVine's injured. I feel like it's just best for him to come off the bench. I think you have to put Andrew Wiggins at the 2, and I think if you have to move on from Ricky Rubio, he's been playing great coming down the line, but Chris Dunn is also developing after this All-Star break. So I think if you got Chris Dunn, Andrew Wiggins, you bring in Gorgie Dang, a defensive stopper, good rebounder, and then you get Karl Towns, your franchise player. And then you bring in someone like Miles Bridges just to even it all out.
Yeah.
When the shot's there, he'll take it. When it's not, he's going to dunk on people.
They're both great two-way players, too.
Exactly.
I mean, playing for Tom Izzo and Coach K, you know,
Right.
you have to be a two-way player in both of those systems.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Jason Tatum, Miles Bridges, I
That's
love
what I'm
those
saying.
picks. They can help get them to the next level in a position of need.
Right. So, Garrett, you were talking about the Lakers. Who are you going to put in there?
I like me some Lakers. Lonzo Ball.
Oh, gotta love
Lonzo
it.
Ball.
You paired Julius Randle, D'Angelo Russell,
and
Jordan Clarkson.
We talked
and
about
then
this earlier. You know,
and
you
Paul
have that.
George also said he wants to sign with the Lakers.
And
so
then you also have Brandon Ingram.
yeah, Brandon
good two-way
Ingram.
player.
There it is.
That's a good
So,
7 or 8 players.
Built
But
for
yeah,
the future.
I mean, you've seen him. They'll probably make a deep run in March Madness,
Oh, absolutely.
and I feel like he's good enough where he can come in and change, like you
He
said,
can
how a
change the
franchise
level.
looks at
Right.
their team.
Exactly.
And then this guy too, Markelle Fultz.
Markelle Fultz.
Another
he's,
one,
he's
yeah.
He's
another
a
guy that
scoring,
can just
athletic
change.
tank.
He's scoring, athleticism, and that
Good
Washington
defender.
team that he's
Yeah.
on isn't great.
Yeah, but
But
he's
he's
Isn't
carrying
great,
them.
but
Yeah.
he's carrying them.
So-
having a fantastic
Make
And-
sure he gets
yeah.
a couple back rubs because
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Another thing I did want to touch up on the Lakers. If you put Lonzo Ball with all those young players,
especially
and-
D'Angelo Russell.
and D'Angelo
Oh my
Russell,
gosh.
and you got Julius Randle, and
Clarkson off
and
the
then
bench,
Clarkson off the
probably.
bench, and then you sign someone. You go out and you get someone like Paul George who has that veteranship, and he's been an all-star. He knows what it takes to win. I mean, this team is only looking up. This offseason's going to be big for the Lakers.
You know, they could run like a crazy 3-guard lineup with Paul George at like the 4 maybe. Or,
Julius,
I don't
know,
if you want, it's look, yeah.
right, you
just
put
run
Julius
a
at the
pure
5.
small ball
This
team.
era of basketball, yeah,
Oh my
small
gosh.
ball works.
They all can shoot threes.
You
so
could combat Cleveland, honestly. I mean,
you
put,
could.
I don't know who's going to guard LeBron, obviously.
I don't think anyone can.
Julius
But-
Randle.
But
Yeah,
in
well, you
terms
can't-
of like
yeah, you can't really
style
guard
of
LeBron,
play,
right.
really, you
Exactly.
really can combat them at that point.
And so, Nick, your Bucks, what are you saying?
I've got the Bucks, and now I'm looking at the Bucks top to bottom, and Matthew Dellavedova is a good point guard. Don't get me wrong, but he's not the one
No.
for Milwaukee.
No.
And I'm not going to say we because I'm not on the team, of course, but they've got a developing 2-guard. My big pick, I think, if they can get Dennis Smith Jr., a just freak athlete, do it all point guard.
Literally the next Russell Westbrook.
I mean, you get a guy like that, and you bring him in with Giannis. You bring him in with Chris Middleton. If Jabari Parker can please come back healthy, you know, my
That's
life
what I'm
would be
saying.
complete.
And,
And then Thon Maker.
I forgot about
He's been
Thon
getting
Maker.
some minutes
Yo,
now.
yeah, so he's starting now. But on a real note, Greg Monroe is probably, you know, he's the dominant center
Right.
of the two.
Yeah,
Thon Maker is a developing project, much like Giannis was. He panned out. Thon Maker, you better
You give it time.
You better get it together. Anyway,
Right.
so you know you've got this young developing group. The oldest player there's 26, and that's Chris Middleton.
Oh god.
So that group can be a dynasty type team. And my backup option was a player that's much like Dennis Smith Jr., but De'Aaron Fox.
Yep.
You know, just a well-known guy out of Kentucky who also is an absolute madman athlete.
Yes.
So, you know, those are my two picks that would send the Bucks over the top
yeah.
in
And
future years.
to touch up on the Bucks right now, you look at them, they're kind of like Cleveland. They don't take threes unless they have to.
Yeah.
They're kind of get to the free throw line kind of players, mid-range. So I do feel like Dennis Smith or De'Aaron Fox can only give them that three ball to help Chris Middleton sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
So I think if you
He's
bring
really
them,
their only really good shooter.
Yeah, really
honestly.
good three-point
You know,
shooter.
as scary as it sounds, I think Thon Maker's their next best three-point shooter.
Yeah. So
Right.
just-
Yeah.
And Thon Maker's no slouch at shooting threes either. Just ask this guy when he plays them in 2K. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.